Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, boys and girls, welcome back. This is episode 4 of the No Bangers Sports Card Podcast.
The last episode?
No, never. 500 subscribers. Shout out to everybody. We appreciate all the love and all the support.
Thank you,
I am Tim from Over the Years Sports. I am joined by the illustrious co-host, Rod, picking and punching cards. And Cary, American Arbitrage Cards. And this is the No Bangers Sports Card Podcast.
Let's do it. Let's do it, dude. Dollar boxing, baby.
Back again, man. I mean, it always feels like weeks in between our shows. And
yes, we say this every time. How many days is it this time, Tim? 16 weeks? 47 days?
637 hours, I believe.
Is it really?
No, I just made that number up, but it sounded good, right?
Well, we have a jam-packed show today, guys.
They were making fun of me for my massive Wawa. Look, I paid for it, by the way, guys.
It says paid.
It took me so I moved here 2 months ago, and I thought I had to bring my receipt up every time. I didn't realize that the machine, when you paid it communicated, I guess.
Oh yeah, Wawa.
The people, and it said paid. So I was always just holding I was always like, I need the receipt or I can't get my drink. And I learned
this man was a Wawa virgin until about a month or two ago. So now he lives at Wawa just like you.
Dude, I just hang out at Wawa. I'm like the kids at 11:30.
Does your Wawa sell cards?
No, yeah, they have tops. No,
mine doesn't.
One of mine has tops sometimes.
Really? Yeah,
and it's always 2022 update. It's never the right one.
What about your 7-Eleven? Does your 7-Eleven sell cards? Because they used to at one point in time.
Dude, my Dollar General down the street does, and they have 2022 Donruss football, a 2-pack that I've never seen before. I should get one. Try to get a Brock Purdy rookie, That's what I should do.
Well, we got a big show, guys, so we kind of got to jump into this. Big show. So today we're going to do a deep dive into, we talked about where to buy cards, where to sell cards, emerging markets. Now we're going to give you guys the secret sauce, how to find these cards at the card shows, card shops, and what to look for in these bargain boxes. And we're going to do a deep dive in that, which hopefully will make you guys a ton of money going forward. But before we do that, we did have some viewers that did make some comments on last week's show, and one of them really stood out to me about the Paul Skenes situation. Now, I'm not sure if you guys saw the additional news that came out. So apparently, for those who don't know, the Paul Skenes card was found, the Pro Patch card, debut patch, and when they did find it, apparently one of the VPs from Fanatics actually flew out to the kid's house, picked up the card, took it to PSA, dropped it off, got it graded, brought it back to the facility. But man, I'm not sure if you guys saw in the news that Ken Golden came out and said that it was a fix, it was a scam, because he didn't have an opportunity to have a chance to even try to bid on it or try to get away. That's after he announced that they're going to donate all the portion of the fees that he would receive for that to the LA's firefighters and to the community out there because of all the wildfires going out there. So what are your thoughts on his allegations, Tim?
I mean, listen, that's all for show, if you ask me.
That's for Bangers Sports Card Podcast.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
When do we get the No Bangers G5 private plane? I feel like that we get that at
I think we can get a couple. I think we can hook 3 of us up to a paramotor. One of those? You ever seen the paramotors that always? Those are scary, but I think we might be able to splurge and get one.
The only way No Bangers is getting a private plane is we go to Walmart and we buy it in the Hot Wheels section, right? That's the only private plane we're going to
make a big enough paper plane that could hold our weight. I'm not light.
But hey, last week, one of our viewers, his name was Insert Clever Name 126, did say, and he made some good points though. He's talking about the redemption card. He's like, hey, this may not happen, but he made a good point about the kids. He said the kid had the perfect handwriting, the perfect punctuation, using the proper grammar and all in there. A lot of people are speculating that it is a fix, man. Do you still think right now all the conspiracy theories out there that
I want to book in this with allegedly and end it with allegedly because I have no idea.
Okay,
but look,
listen,
who's writing in a journal in 2025, adult or child?
I respect it. I'm a big guy. I'm a writer.
No, I respect it, but who's doing it? It's very. Are you? Well, read us an entry.
Okay. Here we go. Jaden Daniels is the 5th rookie quarterback to play in the NFC Championship game, followed by Brock Purdy, Mark Sanchez, Joe Flacco, Big Ben, and Sean King. The difference was all three, all of those other quarterbacks had top 3 defenses. Washington's defense was only 18th, so Just a little note from my journal entry. But
there
listen,
there we go.
If I'm buying my kid a damn update hobby box, his ass better have perfect grammar and punctuation.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Straight A student.
I saw Paul Skenes made like the late night talk show circuits. He hit the circuits, and I think he actually got to meet the 11-year-old kid. So I think we can put all the conspiracy theories to bed now. Like, I'm just glad it's over because the people demanding all that extra stuff was just ridiculous. But
yeah, we got it. Now we got to be ready for the next random thing Topps throws at us that we're supposed to care about, right? The next one of one something.
You know, last week I talked about how Fanatics made sold $1.6 billion in cards. I mean, think about how much money they probably made selling just that set compared to their entire, everything they did in last year. Why would you want to step over $100 bills to pick up pennies? What I'm saying is, like, it takes years to build up a reputation. Why would you piss it away within seconds over this Paul Skenes card? So it doesn't make sense to me from a business standpoint for them to have any type of conspiracy, have anything to do that. So I agree with you guys, man. I just think it's fun, though. I know it's fun.
Do
for the
you know
industry
when?
To talk.
Did they announce when it's going to be, when that auction starts? I've never been on Fanatics auction site before.
Well, it's PWCC, so they bought up PWCC.
Yeah, but that doesn't keep the PWCC name,
correct.
right?
No, it's Fanatics Collects now.
Yeah, it's for
So this was PWCC. Yeah.
But
I don't know. It'd probably be like a week or two, or they might save it for like an elite, month-long kind of deal, maybe next month. I don't know. Maybe like during spring training. That seems like a decent time to do it.
Oh, yeah. That would be a good time. Yeah. I mean, but with it going to charity, a big portion of it, I would assume they would do it sooner before later, just for the fact that they are going to be donating that money to LA and, for the buyer premium portion of it. Yeah. So I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see. But all right. Now, what I'm about to say here, I'm going to speak for all three of us here, is this is something we don't want to talk about in the show. And this has been all over the news. If you guys know about this, Backyard Breaks came out, and Grant, one of the co-owners of the company, came out and made some very inappropriate comments about having a fictitious daughter that was underage and exploiting her sexually if he had a daughter. And granted, he was doing it under a dark humor, joking around way, hopefully thinking that, but it's something we need to address. I mean, because they are the biggest breakers in the industry. We do not condone anything he said. We hate that we even have to talk about this, especially me being I have a stepson, you have a kid on the way, like you have your girlfriend
kids too.
Yeah, you have stepkids as well. So like, this is a horrible, horrible thing. And there's an online petition right now trying to get them banned off, whatnot, banned from the national, banned from all this. So we're going to do a little round robin here. We're only going to take a minute because we do not think that we should give this a ton of time, but we do have to address it because it is a serious matter. So I'll start with you, Tim.
I mean, first and foremost, the comments were, there's nothing funny or humorous about the comments that were made. If you know me in this industry for any period of time, you know that I'm a big, I'm not a big backyard guy. I think they are a scum company. They've been a scum company. They'll always be a scum company. Everything that they do is scum written all over it. I am really upset that Whatnot has not made a statement, given that there is a zero tolerance policy for those sort of comments. I think, there's a history of this sort of behavior with that company. And I'm not even talking about the card side of stuff and how they scam people out of money with overpriced repacks, and they don't give away a Trevor Lawrence gold kaboom that they said they were going to give away. And I mean, there's just countless examples of all that. There's absolutely no room for any of this sort of behavior in the hobby. You have children that watch them. You have women that watch them. You have children and women in this hobby, and I think it's just a completely disgusting display of behavior. And hopefully, something comes of it. Unfortunately, at the rate in which this news cycle is going, it does not appear that there will be suffering any immediate consequences via Whatnot. But I do think that there will be some companies, and probably the National, that will definitely separate themselves from Backyard and any sort of future collaborations. That would be the smart move to do. I know a lot of people have been boycotting Whatnot, and I think a lot of sellers are in this weird dilemma, like, do I sell here, do I not sell here, especially women. So it's a lot to kind of digest. I think it's interesting is that there's so many disagreements within the hobby. No matter what you do and what you sell, buy, collect, flip, there's always going to be people that are kind of not to say butting heads, but they view things differently. This is one thing that every single person in the hobby can agree that this was crossing the line, and there's 100%. No room for it in the hobby.
Yep, 100%. Man. I think the only thing we can't control what Whatnot does. We can sign petitions. I know there's a lot of people on social media like pushing the boycott and everything. But the only thing we can do, I feel like the only power we really have in this situation is just not shopping with them. Mm-hmm. Don't go on their streams wherever they are and don't support them. It's that simple. We do have some power collectively by being able to do that, no matter what any business with their business interests decides to do. So, I never was much of, I don't know if I've ever bought from them in the past. I mean, I had issues with the Kaboom thing back in the day. I'm not a big fan of the way they do things either already. And then this is just solidifying that fact, obviously. So, I mean, it was gross, and I wish we could have talked about cards this week more, but Instagram was just a lot of this kind of drama, and it sucked.
So I think just to piggyback off what Tim said about the whole Whatnot situation, from a business standpoint, there's millions of dollars involved, and that's not the portion of it. They have Backyard Breaks has 100+ employees that work for them. So, when you're the CEO or you're a part owner of a company, and you come out and you make horrible statements like that, I'm sure they have a lot of good people that do work for them that's not out there doing or, that do not condone what they said or do. But I'm sure like that you have a trickle down effect. You have a responsibility. Like, I'm a father. I have a responsibility for my pets, for my family, for my kid, for, keeping a roof overhead. Like, you have a responsibility to your employees. And when you come out and you say stuff like that, to potentially get your company banned. So I think from a legal standpoint, I think Whatnot's not putting anything out. Topps hasn't put anything out. They have a partnership with GameStop. They're doing repacks throughout the country. So none of these companies, the national, have not come out and made any comments on this yet. I think a big portion is because on the legal side, their legal teams have to come up with a written statement. They're going to come out how they're going to take action, because, if they do if they do punish Backyard Breaks, which I think we're all in agreement they should, there is a trickle down effect. Like, the people could lose their job over his stupid freaking comments. And I think, that's a real sad thing. And Cage Lawyer on Instagram made a really good point. He's like, when you make comments like this, and this is anyone who owns a business out there, your comments, when you put it on the internet, that's there forever. Mm-hmm. What's going to happen one day when he actually has a daughter? What's going to happen when his daughter wants to have her friends come over and do a sleepover, and their moms know that video's out there? Like, there's a trickle down effect that's going to follow him for the next 10, 20, 30 years of his life. And that's unfortunate, and rightfully so. But I guess we'll just put a button on that right now and move on to something happier. And that's my Eagles being the Super Bowl, guys. Like, it's been a great time.
It's the most boring Super Bowl ever. Eagles, Kansas City.
Yes, I know you guys are unhappy with the Super Bowl, especially Tim being a Commanders fan. But I guess what I want to kind of dig down into is, I mean, have you guys seen a big jump in cards for the Eagles, for the Chiefs going forward right now? But we have the news coming up. You have the Super Bowl leading up to this. You got a lot of anticipation about the Super Bowl. First time we get a potential to have a three-peat. There's a lot of stories. Barkley.
I will say this. Like, and I'm sure a lot of us who do so many live auctions, I immediately see reactions to things that are happening. But like, I see it on the low end, right? I could put out a shiny, cool, like green mosaic, Saquon right now, out of the new mosaic, if it's color matched to the Eagles jersey, and that's going to do significantly better than definitely it would have done a couple weeks ago, and maybe will do in a few weeks. So yeah, like, that's awesome, dude. That's the exact kind of stuff.
Color match,
and we're going to talk about that when we get into, what we look for into bargain boxes. But that's the kind of stuff that I notice, like you're able to find a lot of $1, $2 cards that you can make a profit on right now with those two teams. And you may be able to all summer long as well. I mean, up until the next season, whether they win or lose, because they had a good season. But yeah.
For me, I'll tell you.
Lost my train of thought.
I'll tell you this, that with the Super Bowl, this is my go-to move every Super Bowl. So I will literally list This is also depends on what you're doing, and you could do this on multiple platforms and whatnot. If you want to run auctions, I think the auctions are more so for higher end stuff. If you want to go that route, I don't necessarily run a lot of card auctions, like non-live card auctions, but I generally will sit down and I will pull every single card I have for any player for each one of those teams. Right.
Yes.
And not
idea.
Even if they're in their just in their uniform, but like, a Saquon Barkley card because he plays for the Eagles. Right.
Yeah.
And I will list all of those cards and I will list them higher than their average selling price currently. Because what happens is that during the Super Bowl, if somebody makes a big play, if somebody catches a touchdown, immediately people will go to eBay and they'll start buying them. And what happens is a lot of times people don't adjust their prices for these players in real time, right? Because you have a guy like, let's say, Juju Smith-Schuster catches a touchdown pass in the Super Bowl, right? Nobody's really buying Juju Smith-Schuster cards right now.
Correct.
So his card value is pretty low. But once he catches that touchdown pass, all of those people are going to buy up all of those low cards immediately, and then eventually your card will become the lowest card, even though it's priced higher than what it normally would be, because all the other low price cards have been bought. So now you're going to probably sell that card, or somebody will send you an offer and you could feel comfortable taking that offer. But I will list every single card that I have from both of those teams that day or the night before. And then, because that way it's a fresh listing, it's not a stale listing, and not promoted if it's on eBay or whatnot. So that's what I do for every single Super Bowl. And I've done very well on that previously, especially on lower end cards.
I mean, if you want to get really into it, and this is like one of my favorite pastimes for the Super Bowl, is like that's one of my favorite things to do. First off, you got to be careful to buy during the Super Bowl. I've done that before.
Correct.
It's not always a smart idea, but selling is or could be a really good idea. A couple years back, maybe 3-4 years back, Damian Williams was the running back for the Chiefs at the time. He had 2 touchdowns in that game. I had bought an autograph the day before, I think, at my local card shop, and I put it up at a profit. I didn't do the higher end like you're doing, like the high end of it. I just kind of put it where the market was, which was better than what I paid. But he had that first touchdown. I think I took it down and raised it. Then he had a second one. And this is an interesting thing. If you're high, like you're even saying, you're going to start getting offers sometimes after a play. I many times, including this Damian Williams, I took it down and I priced it like $5-10. You don't want to go too crazy, but I priced it up $5-10 and I've sold them immediately. The Damian Williams as well as other guys. It happened with Evan McPherson back when he didn't have many cards for the Bengals, and they made it to the playoffs.
The mosaic, and the optic contenders.
I bought a bunch of them in the quarter or 50-cent bin. Some of them were like the extra point, shiny ones. And I think by the end of the day, I was selling some of those extra points over $20. And I paid under $1 a piece just because of the big kick.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, who was the defensive back for the Cowboys in the 90s that won the MVP? Was it Larry Brown?
Larry Allen?
This was a trivia question on Authentic in the Beard before.
Oh, was it really?
I cannot believe I can't remember that.
Oh, so the reason I bring that up, though, is there probably wasn't a lot of people listing his card. I mean, if their eBay was up at that point in time, he would have been a prime example of one of those players that just had a breakout game in the Super Bowl and won the MVP. Wasn't someone that was even favored to be, was even on the list of the win. But there's a great opportunity, like Tim was saying, to take out all those cards listed, because it just takes one game in front of 120 million people who watch the Super Bowl for people to go on there and start buying. Also, too, I would say on the other side of this, look for auctions ending during the Super Bowl. If you guys add it to your watch list that day, items when you're at a Super Bowl party, everyone's paying attention to TV. They're not going to be sitting there on their phones. They're watching the football game. They're watching the commercials. That's a great time for people that just forgot the Super Bowl was that day and their auctions end during the Super Bowl. It's a great time to actually get items that may fall below market value,
especially outside of football,
outside of
baseball,
football,
basketball, hockey,
anything that you want to buy on eBay, stuff like that. So that's a great opportunity. So, but before we wrap this one up here, I mean, what's your prediction, Tim? Who do you got win the Super Bowl, Eagles or Chiefs, and what's the score?
You guys got to tune in to Authentic in the Beard here on YouTube.
Every time. God, I hate you, but damn, I respect you for that. All right, Cary, what about you?
He's a shill. I don't have a sports podcast. Maybe I'll show up on his if he lets me.
I'm probably Listen, I have been burned so many times by betting against Patrick Mahomes. It's
I
like
know.
betting against Tom Brady. Like, it's at what point do I just be like, I'll probably put multiple bets in, and kind of hedge my bets with some parlays and prop bets and stuff like that. But I think I'm gonna go Eagles. I think the Eagles are a more complete team. I think they have a better running game, obviously. I think their defense, both of these teams have really good defenses, but I think the Eagles have a more potential for forcing turnovers than the Chiefs do. So I'm going to go with the Eagles if they can win time of possession, turnover battle, and the trenches, run game, offensively and defensively.
Since I don't want to watch the Super Bowl, I'm going to watch the Super Bowl. I'm going to make it the worst Super Bowl ever. It's going to be 3-2 Philadelphia. There's going to be a field goal and a safety.
Well, listen, I need the Eagles to win. Would they need a win? All right, because as soon as they sign Barkley, I place a $50 bet for the Eagles to win the Super Bowl. I get plus 1750 odds, so it pays out $900 something dollars. So it would really make my day if the Eagles win the Super Bowl because
I'm rooting for your Eagles, man.
Money. Do you know how many bargain box cards I can buy with $925, guys?
Dude, seriously.
You know how many I could buy?
You might be able to get a half a WWE Chrome box at this point.
Oh, don't even get me started in WWE Chrome box right now. I'm pissed off about the situation, and you know that too. So,
I know.
So for those that don't know, the WWE dropped their boxes this week for Topps Chrome. It was the first big release that they're actually doing. And I went on the website. I added the boxes to. I was there at 12 o'clock. I added the boxes to my cart. I called Cary, say, hey, do you want a box? I got it in my cart right now. I go to hit my button by 12:02. I hit the button to pay, and boom, sold out. So I couldn't get.
I felt so bad too because I took a second and I probably messed it up for you.
Man. Nah, you're fine. You're fine. I should have just bought it and say, hey, I have an extra box if you want it. It could be yours. So it sold out within less than 2 minutes of being up there. Now you could have got mega box or you could have got a little blaster box. So I jumped online. I quick Googled where else can I buy it. I went to Fanatics website and I had to enter a drawing. So it dropped at 12 from 12 to 1. You had to go there. You place your order. So I placed my order. What they do is they say they will bill your credit card if you're chosen, and they give you 48 hours to let you know if you won. I was like, oh, okay, I need to get this. So I went to WWE website and I went to their website. Same process. Put in, I want to buy 2 boxes, enter the drawing. And till today, this is what we're filming this on Monday. That was on Friday. I've yet to be told that. Well, I guess I didn't win anything because nothing got billed in my credit card. I got no emails letting me know that
did you check your spam folder?
I checked my spam folder. I'm pissed off because it really ruined my day. I really wanted to get some of these. So my question to you guys is, okay, there's something in the industry where people would buy like Nikes and buy shoes, Jordans, they go after it. There's bots out there, and they have these bots that go in there. They can beat anyone's speed, and they click on the website, and they used to buy up all the shoes and then flip them for money. So why doesn't Topps implement a drawing? Why doesn't Topps implement something to their website? Because it was just a free-for-all. There was no stopping people from using a bot, anything else to go in there and buy those boxes that day. Probably why they sold it so fast. But when I went to Fanatics and I went to WWE website, I had to enter a drawing, which restricts those bots and everything else from buying up all the inventory. So, Tim, I mean, why doesn't Topps do that?
Well, I think because they have like a subscription sort of program, I think, that they have at Topps. Mm-hmm. I know they have it. It's called like Topps Montgomery or something like that. I know Ivan.
It's like $199
Montgomery Club.
Year,
Montgomery
right?
Club.
Yeah, I think I've heard Ivan talk about that before. So probably because they're trying to push people towards that aspect of it. I mean, it's tough. I mean, it depends on how much the aftermarket value, the aftermarket prices are compared to like what it goes for. I mean, I've seen them do Dutch auctions. I almost said Dutch oven auctions.
There's a couple ways we could take that. Could you imagine the pressure you'd be under if you were just getting farted on while you were trying to bid? Just being Dutch oven.
More of the cast iron Dutch oven, but okay.
I was thinking of the farts, but either way.
Well,
maybe you get both.
But listen, it's crazy.
This podcast has really gone downhill, guys.
No, I know.
Well, Where Tim, can you explain to people what a Dutch auction?
Dutch oven auction. Go.
Yes.
So Dutch oven auction is they start it at like one price, right? And then like every 5 minutes the price goes Up or down?
Down. Goes
down. Okay. You can tell I'm never in one of these things. But
we don't usually bid on Dutch auctions, do we? Like none of us are into that.
I'm not really into that sort of stuff. But I've only bought like 3 hobby boxes in my entire life, so let's just keep it honest here.
I've actually entered in a Dutch auction before, and I still want to say Dutch oven. I hate you. So it's just say if it starts at $1,000, like every 5 minutes it'll drop maybe $25 or $10 or whatever's dropping, and then they have an hour time frame. Maybe the floor might be $400 or $500. So you have an option at any point in time to go in there and buy it at that price. It's dropping, but you have to remember, like, if you're waiting, I'm going to wait till it hits the floor. Well, it could sell out before the floor even happens. And then what they normally do then too is, I think if it doesn't fully sell out, then they put it on the website for an X amount of dollars, a certain price point in that time. So like you want to get into a Dutch auction to try to really get, especially something like prison drops. Like that'd be a great prison football or something like that, like a hot product that comes out would be a good thing.
They do it a lot with like the first off the line stuff.
And sapphire stuff. They do it a lot with the sapphire stuff.
Aren't there some Dutch auction variations where whatever the mean or median price is or whatever that people chose, everybody gets to pay that price, so you don't get burnt if you're at the top end? Like you're like, I'm going to pay the 5,000, then it ends up going for like 600. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I think there are variations of that.
Gotcha.
Some companies do.
Have you have you gotten into, I don't know how much you do breaks and stuff like that, but did you get into any WWE breaks or anything when they dropped? I will tell you this. If you're interested in like getting into like wrestling breaks and stuff like that, my buddy Brandon, who used to be a professional wrestling referee, his zebra breaks over on Midwest Box Breaks on District, they're ripping a ton of that stuff, and they pulled some crazy cards. I don't know much about wrestling, but I mean, I do know what I do smell what the Rock is cooking.
Yeah.
And apparently it's a Dutch oven.
Oh yeah, exactly. All I know about wrestling is it's fake. That's all I know. That's the only thing I know.
Listen, wrestling's
I'm trying to trigger you.
Right?
I'm triggering you.
Yeah, but listen, I'll tell you this. Yes, wrestling is predetermined, but I can't fake falling off a 4-foot top of a rope to hit my back on the floor. Like I've done it for several years. My body's beaten up from being a pro wrestler, man. You know, so it's not fake. I can show you.
I know. I'm messing with you, dude.
But let's talk about something fake. All right, Tim.
All right.
What's the date today, please? Can you tell me the date?
Today is February 3rd.
I could have swore it was April Fool's because when I got the text message from you telling me that Luka was traded to the Lakers, what I was like, there's no possible way. I was like, I'm getting ribbed right now. I'm getting punked. Like, what?
It's the first time I ever believed in like all the NBA conspiracy theory stuff. I'm like, this no way.
What a crazy trade. I mean, so it's so funny that we talked about this last week. We talked about how the markets were trades happen in the markets, how you want to have your cards listed before the person gets traded because people go on there and make buys. You shouldn't be chasing stuff or buying cards after that. I know Tim's pulling something up right now. You're probably pulling up Luka's what his cards are going for right now. But I think one thing that we left out last week, we talked about it, is depending where a player gets traded to. So if a player gets traded to a big market team, like for example, if someone's getting traded to the Pelicans compared to someone getting traded to the Lakers, there's going to be a drastic difference. Yeah. Someone's getting traded to New York. When you have these big market teams, when people get traded, you're going to have an instant jump in the price of these cards just because it's a bigger market and there's a lot more money in that market.
Yeah, and I mean the thing is too here is that you have to think about is like this is, and that's kind of what we talked about a little bit before about with like Zion and Jimmy Butler, right? Like, are those names big enough to really, shake the market to a certain extent? You'll see some fluctuation. But like with this trade, this is the biggest, the most seismic, trade in some may say the history of the NBA and
maybe in all
definitely
sports.
top 5 in all sports. Like this was on nobody's radar.
That's the biggest thing. Yeah.
It's crazy.
That is the weirdest thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to go down most likely as one of the worst trades in sports history. It's crazy. So
wait, worse than the Herschel Walker deal?
Way worse.
Okay.
I mean, they literally they gave up a guy who's 25 years old who could have been the face of their franchise.
AD is having a monster year. The problem is he's 32 and he can't stay on the court, and then they got no picks. I mean, That's one thing I'm thankful for being a Utah Jazz fan, is that whenever we trade anybody, we get 17 first rounders because Danny Ainge. Somehow we got in this trade and just got Jalen Hood-Schifino, a first rounder last year, and 2 second rounders. And you know what we ended up giving up? The Jazz, because I don't think enough people are talking about the Jazz in this trade. So let me do it.
No one cares about the Jazz, but okay.
I love them. We gave 55. I know. They gave $55,000, I think, to each team, and that was it. That was just to be in the trade. Yeah. It's insane.
So what's crazy is in reference to the card market. So Luka Doncic, Luka's Silver Prism PSA 10s before the trade were going for, I think, around $11.50 in most recent sales, right? And after the trade, it went up 62%. So that same card was selling right after the trade for an average price of $1,862. So that's a nice little bump in a card like that. And what's crazy is like that's one of the most graded cards, you know, that's out there.
I think a lot. Do you guys remember Sasha T? Sasha, the guy that was big doing card shows back like 3 or 4 years ago. He had massive YouTube videos. He's an LA guy. I think like Luka was the face, him and Zion really, and Ja and maybe Trey were like the face of the boom 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. And LA, I think LA is a Dodgers town, but also like a Lakers town. So like he might have been to the best. He went to one of the best basketball markets. I mean, LA is not a football market or anything, but like for basketball, he went to a place where like there's a lot of interest. So I mean, I could see. I mean, I don't know. Nobody knows the future, but I could see his prices staying up for a little bit, and if he plays well, who knows?
Oh yeah. And that would probably have a trickle-down effect on, like, LeBron and maybe some of the other Lakers players as well. You want to know what's interesting? So, like, as soon as that happened, you know, I'm a junkie for sports and stats and stuff like that. And I was, like, you know, looking at some of the trades. This is not the first time the Lakers have swindled somebody for a trade here, okay? So, 1968, the Lakers traded for Wilt Chamberlain. They gave up for Wilt Chamberlain. They gave up Jerry Chambers, Archie Clark, and Daryl Imhoff.
Wow.
For Wilt Chamberlain, okay?
Daryl was good though. Daryl was pretty good. He had that. He had the Imhoff finger roll.
You even comparing Wilt Chamberlain to anybody on that list?
Okay, 7 years.
I've never heard of any of them. I don't know who they are.
Exactly. 7 years later, the Lakers traded for Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And for Kareem, they gave up Junior Bridgman, Dave Myers, and Brian Winters. Okay?
Brian Winters, wasn't he like a coach or a GM or something?
Maybe. Well, fast
Junior
forward.
Bridgman wasn't nobody.
Fast forward to 1996. The Lakers got, rest in peace, Kobe Bryant. You want to know who the Lakers gave up? Vlade Divac.
Vlade, first off, I mean, at the time, you know, Kobe ended up being a big deal, but Vlade was a beast. Yeah, and he ended up being a big part of the Sacramento Kings dynasty that got quashed by the referees. So, allegedly.
And listen, you see the big difference between that trade, the Luka trade? Like, they could have gotten so much more, right? Then you got the De'Aaron Fox trade, and the Kings got Zach LaVine and 3 first-round draft picks.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
This has been a crazy news week for basketball, man. It's just been nuts. I mean, dude, I heard a report that isn't Luke up to almost like 290 pounds or 280 pounds? So
I don't know, man. Listen, the guy was made it to a conference finals and a finals before he was 24 years old. So, like, if the guy wants to eat a few cheeseburgers, you know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna, you know, kill him. I will tell you, I'm trying to move into this new smoothie diet. So we'll see how that goes. Instead of 7-Eleven donuts, I'm moving towards trying to get into like a smoothie sort of breakfast mode.
Okay. Be careful. Smoothie's going to have just as much sugar.
A lot of sugar.
As a donut. So be very careful on that if you're trying to watch your sugar.
Well, what do I do then?
We can talk later. There's other stuff you can do. You can add protein to it. You can add other things if you're making it from home. Are you buying them from the store?
No, I'm making it from home, man. Like papayas and strawberries and stuff like that.
Okay. Yep. Well, we talked about basketball. I think we got to talk about the hoops release. I mean, there's a big release this week. I know that's a big thing that Cary. You're a big basketball guy, so why don't you take this?
I want to get a box. Like hoops is one of the boxes that's like affordable for us cheap guys. Like I think it's more than it should be. It's like $140. It is. I mean, it is just a terrible draft class. Nobody's playing well. Nobody. The guys they thought would play well, like Reed Shepard with his 3-pointer, he's not hitting anything. I think the main guy right now playing the best might be like Steven Castle, who's like a 11, 12 point per game guy right now with the Spurs, but now they got De'Aaron Fox, so he's going to be playing less. It's a bad year. A lot of developmental players. Sarr's been okay. Risha Sher has been average. It reminds me of the 2000 draft, if you guys follow basketball much, with Kenyon Martin and Stromile Swift. That just none of the dudes panned out. Maybe I think Michael Redd was the only guy who ended up doing anything in the league. It's too soon to tell. I mean, I don't encourage prospecting or anything. Do your own research is what I'll say with prospecting.
This is not financial investing advice, okay?
I always get nervous. Yeah, this is not financial advice, but this could be a year, like if you're really paying attention, you might be able to get in super low on guys possibly.
Now, let me ask you this. How much do you think something like that will affect the prices? Because generally, like you see like with Wemby, right? Like that year, the cards it felt like were more expensive than they had been in the previous couple of years, right? So like now, I mean, do they have to keep them within a certain range? But like, do we see a drop off in prices? Like, what are they going to try and sell Prism at?
Yeah, once they get to that price, they're not going back down if they can help it. I don't think they will.
I don't think we're going to see a drop off. I think what we're going to see is when you guys go to Walmart now and you look at the blaster boxes and you see a lot of like 2020, 2021 basketball there. That's what we're going to see. We're going to see a trickle down effect. When we go the next year or two, we're going to start seeing this product is still going to be in stores. This product is still going to be around because it just doesn't have the same appeal as the previous year.
This rookie year, sorry, dude, I just want to mention this real quick. This rookie year is primed for innovation. Topps is doing all this innovative stuff with the patches. I think Panini should just make something called Rookie Plus and just do another rookie year for Victor Wembanyama. He's a rookie plus an extra year. Well, rookie plus, just get it. Let's do another year round. Let's do another spin around the globe.
A second year
card. Do the second year. Do a little second year thing. Do the rookie cup.
But they kind of already do that because like they still release 2024 releases in 2025.
They should slow those down. Just let's have them till 27.
Why that's a good point though. Like for people that getting into the industry and maybe are getting back into cards, that's a very confusing thing for a lot of people because it's going to be 2025, 2, 3, 4 months into the year, and you're getting a new release that says 2024 on it. So that's very confusing for a lot of people.
I think there's 2023 hockey stuff still coming out. I saw some graphic somewhere about like there was some hockey stuff. Maybe that was Bedard's rookie year. I don't know. It's weird. They shouldn't be behind. I don't know why.
Why do they do this? I mean, I know they had to produce the cards. There's other things. They get pictures from the actual games and do that.
Why is Hoops coming out at the end of January? I thought Hoops came out in October. Am I crazy, guys? I thought Hoops came out like at the start of the year, at least as long as I can remember. So I don't know what's going on.
Hey, didn't Prism Draft Picks basketball just come out?
Just come out. Yeah, just came out. So it's like that's why I'm enjoying it because like, oh yeah, Bub Carrington, who I think's a Wizard guy. Like there's guys that I haven't seen any cards of. And they're finally getting some cards, 4 months into the season. It makes no sense. I don't think they're excited about the draft. I don't blame them, the class, but still.
Well, speaking about draft picks, and for those who don't know, I actually pulled the Austin Genty 101 Superfractor card.
You just won't shut up about it.
I know, but listen, I had to bring it up because it's actually awesome. Going. So this is one for the little guy. Every once in a while, we pull something big out of a pack, and I just got dumb luck. I pull one out of the pack. I sent to Golden Auction House, and it's going up for auction. So we're actually going to do a live on Pick and Punching Cards it's going to be on the 20th of, it's a Thursday night. The card ends at, how it works is you pre-bid, you have 10 days to pre-bid on the card, and then you have to place the bid before the 10 p.m. deadline. At 10 p.m., the only people who can bid on the card are people that went placed a pre-bid previously. So we're going to do a live. Hopefully Cary and Tim are going to be there.
I'll be there. Yeah, I'll be there for sure.
We're going to be live on my channel if Tim's available. Tim's about to have a baby, so his schedule could be all thrown up, but we're gonna go live. So we want everyone who listens to No Bangers, come hang out with us. You guys can ask us questions live. It's gonna be a preview of what we're gonna be doing in this channel down the line here in the future. We're gonna be doing some pop-up lives for you guys, but it'd be a good way to interact with us. We love the feedback that we get from our viewers on this channel, and if you guys have any question you guys want us to address on next week's show, please drop it down here because we actually have a huge guest coming on next week. We're going to do a deep dive in bargain boxes today. We're going to talk about bargain box football, but we probably have the expert in the bargain box world when it comes to college football. And Cary, why don't you give a little introduction about who's going to be our guest next week?
I'm a huge fan of this guy, Gaby's Card Stacks. If you guys aren't following this dude, he's like the GOAT and an expert when it comes particularly to college football and all of the stuff that's going. He does basketball too, college basketball, high school, and the high school for both sports as well. He's a fascinating watch on YouTube. I love his deep dives into prospecting and all that kind of stuff, and also the practical application. Like this year, he's focusing on quick flips a lot more. So he is investing in these guys, but he's also willing to move them right away. He's hoping. It seems like he's a lot like us, where he's buying stuff at the right price, where he can move it right now if he decides to, or hold if he wants to, and then maybe he'll take some chances here and there. But he's a great guy. I know, was on the top of our list when we started this podcast that we wanted to have on and really just get into the weeds. And I think that episode will be us getting into the weeds on prospects to look out for, and it's going to be. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I've been following him for a long time. When he was just very small channel, and I digest a lot of his Twitter content because he's really good with his Twitter content too. Some of that sort of short stuff, and he's been doing a lot of the eBay bulk update, bulk listing stuff, which I think is fascinating too. So I think it's going to be a fantastic episode and a great person to have on for our first guest.
And also, too, if I'm not mistaken, he used to work in the college industry with scouting or something along those lines, or I believe
he was.
Yeah. So he definitely has an insight that the normal 9 to 5 worker like us don't have. He has a deep insight, not just college, but also high school kids coming up. They're signing deals now with Leaf and signing deals. So we're going to do a huge deep dive in that. But today we're actually going to do a deep dive in bargain boxes. And we want to tell you guys what to look out for shows. We compiled a list this past week of things that we look for in bargain boxes, because it's one of the biggest questions we get are, what do you guys look for? Where do you guys, what are you guys picking up? And we're going to go down each category, what we look for, why we buy it. But before we do that, I'm going to give one disclaimer to all you guys. All the tips and tricks that we're going to give you today, don't just go out and spend hundreds of dollars on a bargain box. Do not buy cards at shows if you're going to buy them to flip if you don't know where you're going to sell them. So when you listen to us talk today, we're going to say why we're buying cards and where we plan on selling them, because each one of us has a different business model. Some of us list on eBay, some list on CompC, some just do strictly lives. Certain things we sell on lives that we won't sell on a static marketplace. And there's a reason for that. So we're going to do a deep dive into that. But I think we
sometimes buy and we eat our shirt, right? We're wrong, and it happens. So just know that there's risk inherent in all of this. We're doing our best.
But I would say the biggest mistake my first card show. So you guys remember, I just got back in the cards the last year or two. The first card show I went to, I did a deep dive in a bargain box. I bought hundreds of cards, and then I went to walk through the table. I was like, what the hell am I going to do with all these cards? I had no bags, no box, no supplies. So Tim, why don't you explain to people so they don't make the same mistake I did? What do you bring to card shows? And, just so you're prepared so you don't damage the cards. And, what is your attack when you walk into a card show with your supplies?
I'll tell you what's funny is Cary and I had this conversation once many moons ago, before Nashville, because we're both backpack guys, right?
Yep.
There's people that have all types of things, right? Yeah. And I'm getting to the point where I might look at a small sort of
man purse,
fanny pack,
roller bag thing that I can sit on while I'm digging through bargain boxes.
There is a play there. I agree with you.
So I'm putting that in. I'm putting that in the realm of possibility.
Like a suitcase that rolls that pops out to a chair.
Well, no, I mean, sometimes if you have those roller suitcases, right? You just lift the handle up, right? That's my back support, and I can kind of just plump down right.
You got to get the dingiest one you can find at a yard sale, dude.
Do you know what you need?
Just slap a bunch of stickers on it.
Yeah, just stickers.
Stickers on it. No, do you know what you need to get? You ever see those coolers at tailgates that are the motorized coolers? You can sit on the cooler and it goes. You need to get one of those. You could pass out beers. You could pass out water. You'll probably get your big discount at the tables. And then you just walk.
This is what I feel like.
You do that, and you're the no-banger motorized cooler.
I feel like our merch should be very do-it-yourself too. We should just have painter's tape and just put no bangers on stuff, and that's our merch. We get a blank hat, or we get just put the no bangers over your Puma logo, dude. That should be our merch style.
That was going to be a big announcement next week, but now you just ruined it. So now we get back to the drawing boards.
Oh, dang it.
So outside of that, right, normally this is what I do. I actually just went to card shows the last 2 days. Okay, so I have this backpack, okay? And inside that backpack, I have...
He has nothing inside his backpack right now.
Well, I took them out because these will fill the cards.
Right.
So I usually keep multiple smaller card boxes. So I have 1, 2, 3.
And how many do these fit?
4.
They fit?
I mean, it depends on the cards that you're getting. So you kind of have to maneuver them a little bit. 5. So you keep about 6.
So that's good to use the smaller boxes because the first card show I went, the second card show I went to, I'm like, I'm putting an 800 count box in mine, and then I realized
3 row
big for my freaking book bag, so now I had to get a smaller box. But I do like how you have several smaller boxes.
Yeah, several smaller boxes works well. I've seen people carry the old school long 1 row boxes in their pocket of their hoodies, and they just kind of slip that.
Not a terrible idea.
Yeah, so that's another thing. But
here's the
that's
thing,
really important.
Yeah. You don't have to have a fancy suitcase with a logo.
No.
I mean, especially if you're a bargain boxer. I mean, I need to bring boxes more. I mean, I have brought them with me. Many times I'll bring a 3 row and leave it in my car, fill up my bag. And if I get a lot of cards that are not in top loaders, then I'll run to my car real quick and put them in the 3 row. But I think team bags are great to keep.
Team bags are very important because that's what I'll put. So I'll keep all my top-loaded cards in the boxes, but then when I'm buying just penny sleeve cards, I always put them in team bags and then put the team bag in the card box. Now, because of the way that you situate it, sometimes you might have to seal that team bag just in case so that they don't slip out of the team bag. But yeah, I usually fill the team bags with all the non-top loaded cards. So that's one of my biggest things is the boxes and the team bags. And that's pretty much all I really take outside of the card, the supplies aspect of the card show.
I also bring a couple packs of top loaders and penny sleeves because you just never know what you may run into. You could win a giveaway there. You could, end up opening something that you weren't planning on opening. I always like to just have that just in case. Or maybe for example, when you're digging in that bargain box, you found a $100 card. What happened was just in a penny sleeve. I want to make sure I had that protector right away. I just don't want to stick that in a box. So I think that's a good one. Cary, do you have anything to add to that? Is that pretty much it?
I mean, that's really good advice, honestly. I bring top loaders and penny sleeves and stuff like that, especially if I do find that $100 card that needs to go in a top loader and a penny sleeve right away. If by chance it already isn't in one.
Yeah.
But I'm not super particular about it. I mean, these are bargain box cards, and if there's something I'm worried about, if I was at a card show and I didn't have that supply and I found something amazing, I would go find something at the show and overpay, I guess, if I had to. But it just a little bit of preparation goes a long way. Some top loaders, some boxes are a great idea. I'd never really done the really small boxes like that. That's a great idea. I'm going to do that next one.
Yeah, I'm going to do that too. I mean, even I'm learning right now. I'm like, oh, why didn't I think of it?
I have so many of those boxes in my office. It's crazy.
It's good. So, but that's a good way to actually separate your cards too at the shows and after you get little separate boxes and kind of go through and stuff I need to look up, stuff I'm going to run right away. I like that idea, man. That's organization is key. I will tell you guys, when you guys go to these shows, organization is key. But all right, so the first thing, let's talk about the first thing we're going to look for. When we're digging through a bargain box, I say the one thing that catches our eye right away is eye appeal. All 3 of us sell live, so we like cards that look shiny, like cards that pop out to us. But I'll start with you, Cary. You do a lot of lives. How important is the eye appeal to a card to selling live and selling?
Eye appeal is huge. Eye appeal is huge, and also I've done videos on cards for 5 years on my other channel as well, but on my card only channel for almost 2 years now. So over time, I feel like a lot of people who follow me have similar taste as well. So I'm out there talking about cards that I think are cool. So whether it's a hologram or it's a color match card, we're all in our 40s or early 40s, late. I don't know. Are you 40 yet, Tim?
I am. I'll be 41 in 4 days.
Oh, congratulations, man. Right on. Yeah, we're all old. So all those 90s cards, the metal, all the cool, wild insert sets. And it doesn't necessarily even have to be the stars. If it's a cool enough looking card, you know, I can talk about it and I can sell it. So eye appeal and your own personal taste over time, especially if you're doing lives, you can start to get people in there who have similar taste to you, and you can cater to that. But really, especially for live shows, eye appeal is huge.
What about you, Tim? What stands out for you with eye appeal?
Yeah, I mean, eye appeal has, you know, a big eye appeal appeals to the collectors that you're selling to a lot of times, right? And then, you know, especially with older cards, nostalgia cards, 90s inserts, no matter what sport it is, you know what I'm saying? Like those sort of things that, like, inserts nowadays are made completely different than they were in the 90s, and that's why the value of 90s inserts are so much more higher. So I think that that's something that is definitely is heavy there. And then I think patches too is another thing you kind of want to take into consideration when it comes to eye appeal, right? Like, do I really want to spend $5 on a napkin patch that's not game used, right?
Like, explain napkin patch, because some people out there may not know that term. What a napkin patch is.
So a napkin patch is just a plain patch. Mostly people refer to it as a all white patch, okay? But I mean, it could be also commonly any other color, but just one plain color. You know, like a lot of times you'll have people that refer to it as a 3-color patch, 2-color patch, 4-color patch, etc. And that sort of level of appeal can generate more value, and especially in a live auction, you have people going back and forth. So to me, like those are a couple of things that as far as eye appeal goes, because it can be the big difference between getting a 50-cent $1 card selling for $1 or selling for $3 to $5. That's kind of what you're looking for.
The interesting thing about patches too, like if you got a plain white patch of like a Joe Burrow, it might sell for a few bucks depending on the design of the card. But if you get a 4-color like patch that has a piece of the logo, even if it's manufactured, but it's I don't know, Stedman Bailey, somebody who's not a big player that didn't pan out in the NFL or whatever. If you get that for $1 or $2, you may still want to pick that up, because it's just, there's going to be a team collector for the Rams who wants that, or maybe somebody who liked him in college, or it just looks so good that they will put a $5, $10 bill down for it. And there's a lot to be said for that as far as eye appeal goes.
I think Tim made a great point that I don't want to gloss over there is, in your shows, if you guys are selling live, now we're just talking about live because eye appeal is going to, I mean, yes, you can, on a stack marketplace, eye appeal is huge as well, but you have a lot of people that are going to be impulse buyers when they see something that just looks shiny, looks great. So Tim made a great point. When you are running a live, you have to remember you're going to have people in there that are buying to collect, and you have people that are buying there to resell because they're hoping to get cards below the market value. So you have to know your audience when you do these shows, and you have to know your audience what they want. So having a mixture of both is always crucial to your audience. And then over time, you can start developing and find out what your audience likes. Because you guys made a great point. Not all patches are the same. There's a whole reason why people are chasing the Pro Debut patch. There's a whole reason why people chase the Logo Man patch, because they're not made the same. I think the biggest thing, though, when it comes to patches is event worn patches or game use patches, because there's a massive difference. I will tell you, when I do my lives, when I'm digging through those bargain boxes, I want game use patches. You're going to find a lot more game use patches in the 90s, early 2000s than you do traditionally today. I mean, they're still out there today. But baseball, you get a lot more
has a lot of game use today.
Yeah, event use patches today than you get from game use. So, Tim, I mean, from what you've done in the past, what is your take on event use versus game use, and how that impacts your live selling and marketplaces?
I'm like going to pick up game use stuff. I mean, that's something that Cary and I, talked about, a few years back, and like it's a big deal, I think. And I think that, we move cards a lot, fast, quick turnaround, right? But I think that down the road, game worn patches are going to have so much value from this time period, because there's so much stuff that isn't game used. So the limited amount of stuff that is game used is going to have value. And what's interesting is, especially in baseball, a lot of the like lower end sets, archives, heritage, like those cards, those aren't like, the high end Topps products, but 90% of those products are using game used relics in them, bats, jerseys, stuff like that.
Super cool.
So like those are kind of like cards that will slip through the cracks into, the bargain boxes, but they're game used. So I love picking those sort of things up on a daily basis.
It is something that, sorry, it's something that a lot of us have talked a lot about, but it's one of the unfortunate turns in the sports card industry of the last 10 years is just, gosh, what is it? The cheapification of these patch cards, these game used cards that are now not even guaranteed to be from anything at all. They're just off a press into a card. And maybe that's okay in my opinion, and maybe it was okay at first when they started doing it because they would do cool patches or something and it just looked good. I can understand it being a cool aesthetic insert card that has no game used value but just looks dope. I get that. They make like cool patch cards, Ginter, all the time that aren't even like, they don't have anything to do, or Goodwin Champions. I saw a Goodwin Champions card yesterday. I was watching a box opening and it was Inspector Javert from Les Mis, and it was just like a fabric patch card. I'm like, that's kind of cool. It's weird, but like that's obviously not game used or nothing. That's interesting and at least artistic, right? But back in the day, the whole reason, I remember the mid '90s when this started. Autographs got huge and game used got huge, and it was bring a piece, feel a piece of the game, get a piece of the game home with you, without having to spend.
You're right, yeah.
And they took away all of that, and they've really, really cheapened what it means to the point where it's even hurt some of the modern game used stuff, the value of it. It's sad, but I hope people stop buying that stuff and hopefully push the companies into actually spending the money and getting more game used stuff. Even if there's less of it, just make it harder to find. I don't care. Give it some value.
I'm okay with less of it, man. I think if there's a place for like event worn like jerseys or event worn clothing in cards, and I'll give you an example.
For rookies.
The rookies, yes, I can see that. But what about when they like Topps does a gimmick? They do like the Christmas sweaters or something like that. That's a cool, fun thing to do.
It's a fun insert, and their patches on the sweaters look good usually. Yes. They're like fun.
So that I'm cool with. That's eye appealing to me. That's cool. It's a gimmick. It's goes right in the time of Christmas time going on. It puts you in the spirit. Like I'm all for that. But it's just when I get a regular jersey where something they wore at batting practice, like I can give two craps about that. And I think we're all agreement on that.
Well, listen, I'll take a batting practice over, this is not from any particular event or thing, and it's probably was not worn by the actual player, but the bat boy, and I don't want it in a product that costs $3,000, and then you're going to give me a patch that's like a random.
It's one thing if you get it. It's one thing if you get it in a blaster, and it's another thing if you're buying, a $3,000 product. That's uncalled for, I think.
But I understand the thought process behind it because, like, for example, do either of you guys gamble at all? I mean, other than like go to a casino, I mean, like play slots or anything like that.
Yeah.
Okay,
not much.
So if you go to a casino, you play a slot, you put in $100 in the machine, and let's say I put a $10 bet, I might win $3 back. I might win $5 back, but I'm winning almost every time. I'm winning something because you get the instant gratification. Like, oh, I hit something. Oh crap! I got back part of my money. But if I went to the casino and I put a $10 bet 10 times in a row and won nothing, what's the odds of me putting more money in that machine? Probably very little because I didn't get any type of gratification from it. So the card industry has really shifted to that mindset, the gambling mindset. Not saying they're gambling when we buy cards, but when we open up packs, we're getting number cards, we're getting patch cards, we're getting autograph cards, we're getting some type of insert, a colored insert, a pulse, or cracked ice, whatever it is, because we want that. They're giving the buyer that same thought process, the perception that we're getting some type of insert, and that brings me to the number cards. We get a lot of number cards out there. I try to pick up low number cards when I'm in bargain boxes. I would say one of the biggest things I tell Cary that this when we're at the Tampa show is when I go through bargain box now, I look through all the cards, I quick flip them over, and I quick do a scan through the back of every single card because in the late 90s, early 2000s, right now, pretty much all the numbers are either in the front and the right corner or in the back and the certain corner. But in the late 90s, early 2000s, those number cards were all over the place. That might be in the center of the card, that might be vertical, they could have been horizontal. So they're going to be all over. So the places that you normally look for number cards may not be in the same position you normally get. So I try to pick up number cards all the time. And a good trick is to flip it over and search to the back.
Yeah, I mean, they're all over the place.
Yes.
That's the one thing is that, they are on the front, they're on the back, they're on the top, they're on the left, the right, But that's an interesting thing. I saw you guys talking about it in the group chat about just going through the box backwards, right?
Yeah.
I go through cards super fast,
You
and
can do the same thing super fast with the
when
back.
I go through a card show, I might look at close to 1 million cards at like the big shows. Like Cary and I were at National for 5 days, open to close, and then trade night. How many cards do you think we looked through during that time?
1 million cards though? That's maybe 100,000, maybe
in our lifetime, probably 1 million, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking about it in a day.
In an 8-hour day, bro? Come on.
Well, we probably physically see them. You didn't go through them all.
Sure, okay.
I mean,
listen, machine you're like laying there.
Tim is more thorough than me though, so I mean, he's going to have a higher number than me.
A 4-row box fits how many cards?
4,000, 3,200.
No, it's 6,000. I don't even know. No,
5,
4 rows is what is? I don't know.
Well, 3 rows,
a lot.
Yeah, a lot. Okay,
depends on if they're in sleeves, not in sleeves, and top loaders.
I might look through 6 of those at one table.
Yeah, that's true.
So we're looking 24,000 right there, one table. And at National, we go through probably 7,000 tables. You know what I'm saying? So anyways, you when you're looking through the card boxes like that, you got to be a little. You want to be able to hit as much tables as you possibly can at a card show. So sometimes, I know I do this. I'm pretty sure you guys probably do this too. Sometimes you get a feel of a box,
yes,
right?
That's a good point.
And you get to this point where it's like, do I want to continue looking through this box? And in it's like you got the 2 card guys on your shoulder, right?
Yeah.
One guy's like, dude, if you don't look through this box, you're going to miss the one banger that's in this bargain box. Yeah. And another guy's like, dude, why are you looking through 2,000 base cards? Go to the next table. There's probably numbered cards in that bargain box. So
the no banger demon. Don't get any bangers. Stop it.
Nickels and dimes make dollars, damn it. Nickels and dimes make dollars, all right? So, but no, you make a good point because I am guilty of this. Not just at card shows, but when I was going out picking at like flea markets and stuff like that, you don't want to spend a lot of time at these tables because you want to do almost a quick walkthrough of the whole place and then go back, decide where you want to go and spend your time. But also, too, on the reverse side of things, like I also had that dilemma where I have gone to shows, I've gone to 2 tables. That second table box was just awesome, and I'm going to spend more time there because I'm doing stuff. But then I had that instant FOMO that I missed out on the rest of the stuff at that card show.
To me, it's this simple. If you get to and it's hard because you always have that, you got to move on to the next spot, and I do it a lot. If you find a table that's working, work the table. That's just what you got to do. And if it takes up all your time, that was poetry right there. Yeah. It sounds lame, but like that's what you got to do. If you got something working, you got to double down on it. And as far as like the numbering goes, like we are living through like the wild cardification of numbering, as you guys know. Their wild card is doing, they're doing boxes where every card, it seems like, or packs, every cards are 1 of 1s. So 1 of 1, there is so much nuance with numbering, and it's all and it's hard to explain it in like one podcast, but a 1 of 1 from wild card has value at the right price if it's the right player, or even the wrong player, as long as it's cheap enough. But a 1 of 1 in a different brand, like even Topps, if you had a 1 of 1 superfractor or a 1 of 1 printing plate, massively different prices. First off, the 1 of 1 printing plate, there's 4, right? 4 different colors that they're doing. 4 different colors. And then the superfractor, they've just done so much numbering now. There's so much nuance. And the way that you understand nuance and what works and what doesn't work is doing what Tim does and I do and what Rod does. We go through these boxes all the time, and it's just putting in hours and putting in work, seeing patterns, seeing what works, what doesn't work. And it just takes time. Like that's the best education you can get to be better at bargain boxes is just go to your local store, even if they have a crappy one, and just work it. And then go back a week later and maybe even see the same cards again, but see if you find something different. Or take some cards out and look them up and see if there's value in some of them.
And one last thing number-wise before I forget is the jersey number matches. You know what I'm saying? Like that's something that's super important. I'll never forget the box I saw Cary go through where it was literally an entire box of jersey number matches, which was what a
great idea.
Insane.
That was Burbank Sports Cards that did that. That was brilliant. If you guys have booths, you should do that if you have enough cards to do that with.
Jersey number matches can fetch a premium, especially for lower end cards. Like it might not be like the best guy, right? Like I found like a super sick like early 2000s Al Jefferson jersey match card, right? Like that card is going to have a lot more value than it would if it wasn't a jersey match. And then you got to think about the other sports too. Like I mentioned about soccer. Soccer is one of the sneakiest jersey match numbers that you can find. Sometimes on the back of Topps Chrome Soccer, it'll have their jersey number on there, so if you can't see it from the picture. So that's another thing to kind of keep your eye out when you're looking at the cards. But I always try and find jersey match numbers on stuff. I think that's super important as well.
I think also too the number one, say there's 50, the card's numbered out of 50. 1 out of 50 is also key because it's the first card off the line. Mm-hmm. Sometimes people like the last card at 50-50 or that numbers that match like that is also. So there's a little nuance.
23. There's people who do the 23 for 23. Jordan.
But Tim, you brought a good point about soccer. I got a question to ask you because I know you do a lot of soccer. Why are their numbers so bizarre on like soccer cards? Like, so I'm digging through this box of soccer cards here. I think it's called Futura or whatever the cards are, and they're like number 17. They're like number to like 12. Like just weird off the wall numbers with a lot of these cards. Is there a thought process behind that?
I don't think so. But I see that in some. I see that a lot in the like what is it called? Panini Elite Extra Edition, which is like has always been a prospect Panini baseball product. They have like different die cuts have different numbering, like some to like 12 and 26 and 37, and they have like prime numbers and stuff like that. So I don't think there's any method to the madness. I think they're just throwing a wrench like always.
Well, I think one thing I want to add to the numbers, and I made a big mistake at the last card show I went to. I bought some 101s wild card. I paid probably like $15 to $17 a piece of them because I wanted to test them out, see how they do in my whatnot shows. One was a Puka, one was a Neighbors. The Neighbors I made a profit on, the Puka I lost money on. So sometimes you just have to throw stuff against the wall. But also too, Leaf is another one that does a lot of low number stuff, which has great eye appeal. So that's one that you guys can pick up mostly cheap. That's good to try out and especially because they do a lot of prospecting. We're gonna get a little bit more into prospecting.
Yeah, Leaf is like probably one of my favorite products, period. Yeah, I love the value proposition in bargain boxes for Leafs and the value you can get if you're educated or if you're trying to educate yourself. Like I've talked about it before. I go to my local place, K&T in Ormond Beach, and they put a lot of Leaf in there. I guess they open a lot there. And I will dig in and look up the people.
You can't really see that there, but I mean, look at that. The eye appeal of that card looks absolutely stunning. You know what I mean? Like, it just, some of the stuff looks great.
I love like with the Leaf too, like you don't know who the person is, but it's 2024. That's a red flag to me. I don't know who this is. Why did Leaf decide to put this dude in here? It's not, if it's 2018, let it go because he never panned out. But if it's 2024 and it's a dude you never heard of or anybody, look it up. It might be because they're a top 5, high school prospect for the quarterback position. And nobody knows really, except for the people really paying attention. So I'm like, now I learned something. Put that in my, my quiver of arrows, so to speak,
We're going to get a little bit more of the prospecting here in a minute, but I want to say one thing that I see a lot in bargain boxes is autograph cards, especially baseball autograph cards. Now, Tim, I know you're a baseball. I will consider you the baseball expert of this show here because you know more than me and Cary combined when it comes to that. So what is your game plan on finding baseball autographs? Because it's different than football or different than basketball because you have a lot more players in the minors. You have a lot more players in different leagues and other stuff. So what's your play on autographed baseball cards and bargain boxes?
I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, I approach the autograph because a lot of times at card shows, people will have a box of autographs and patches, right? Sometimes they'll have it mixed in with everything else, but a lot of times they put them in the same box, right? So, like, I don't really approach it any different when it comes to autographs to any other sport. I mean, like, unless I guess it's a little bit different just with prospecting in general. So, like, if I find a first Bowman autograph of a guy within the last 2-3 years, right, and it's, like, under $5, I'm going to buy it, right? Because for me, it's the risk reward is there, right? Because those cards fluctuate in value so much, and it's a lot of times it's easier to buy those cards way after the fact of the product coming out, but way before they've even played stateside in some instances where you can buy those for cheap enough and there's still potential for growth, massive potential for growth in some cases. But I mean, like, it's just, a lot of times too with like Topps baseball, like the flagship series and like the Topps Chrome stuff like that, you're gonna get autographs of guys like rookies that like batted like 187 in like 5 games, right? So it's like, like that doesn't you're in your mind, you're like, oh, this is an autograph, it's $2, right? But like sometimes you don't have to buy every single card, right?
That's
like
true.
I've learned that early on. I think that's helped me a lot because sometimes like you'll get those cards and you're like, this is a steal, right? Because we don't comp at card. I don't comp at card shows.
Yeah,
97% of the cards I buy without comping. So
but most of the cards we're buying, just so people know, are probably $20 and under as well.
Yeah.
So that's part of the reason why we're not comping.
I mean, if I get a $20 card, I'm comping it.
Yeah, okay. But you know what I mean.
Like $3 and up is a comp.
You guys have to, you guys have to know that time is money. So if you're sitting there comping every single card, you're going to be wasting. You're there for 8 hours. You're wasting 1-2 hours of your time just looking stuff up when you can make hit more ground by just covering the area.
Yeah, it's just I think you have to be careful with that because. Like I said, you'll get home and then you'll be like, oh, this has got to be at least a $5 card, right? And then you look it up and it's literally a $3 autograph rookie card. So but sometimes it's good to have those. Once again, back to what you said in the beginning, it depends on how you're selling these.
Yeah.
Like that might be a good card for ComC, it might be a good card for collects or a live auction. Because a lot of times you get people who are just like, you got any autos? And you're just like, okay, let me just dig really quick into this auto box.
There's also nuance to that, right? Like if it is a guy who batted in 5 games 187, but it was last year 2023, right? And you get it for $1, $2, $3, and it's out of 2024 Bowman, and you paid $1 or something. Even if you're like that wasn't a good buy right there, you could put that in the box and like just let it sit there for a year.
Your backup quarterback box.
It's a lot different than buying a no-namer from 2012 Bowman, and that he's not coming through the minors at 36 to tear it up. You know what I mean? It's over. So he's done. He's working. He's selling cars or something, or he's like a chef. But it's not working.
Cary, what about the difference because there's a huge difference between on-card autographs and sticker autographs. So when you do your auctions do you see a big difference in price points? People are buying these cards?
Yes, there is a difference if you have like high-end stuff, but we're dealing with such low-end. Like if I have, I paid $2 and I got I sold a Katron Allen, your guy from Penn State, 1,100-yard rusher. I think for like $15-20 as a buy it now and whatnot. I don't think with him it matters as much because like he doesn't have a ton of stuff, and if it's priced right. Now, if you're dealing with a Kobe Bryant autograph, that's a big difference if it's hard signed or if it's a sticker autograph. But with the low end, if you have a choice, but if it's the right price, I'd pick them both up, if that makes sense. So
I pay no mind. I don't when I'm digging through a box. I don't pick it up and be like, oh, I'm not buying this because it's a sticker auto.
With the low end, I don't think it matters at pretty much at all.
And also, too, one thing we didn't touch on, there's patch and autos in the same card, too. And that's another appealing because you're crossing 2 different things, 2 different markets at one point. Patch cards, autograph cards, patch autos. That's also appealing to people. So it just depends. People to come in my stream, just collect those only. But, we did a deep dive in emerging markets. And was it the last podcast? It's so long ago. It feels so long
2
ago.
podcasts ago.
2 podcasts
ago. We did a deep dive in emerging markets. So we talked about it briefly in that show, but when we're in these bargain boxes, this is a great time for us to have opportunity to test the water on different things, maybe things we haven't done before. So I'll start with you, Tim. Because, from talking with you about how you dug into like women's soccer and other things, you're looking about hockey. What is your thought process going in about these emerging markets coming up, stuff that we touch base on?
So let me start by saying this is I generally have a game plan, try to have a game plan when I go to a card show, right? So like it all depends on the size of the card show, obviously. But I try to focus in on one sport first, right?
Is that mostly baseball?
Baseball first, because for me, that's my bread and butter. That's where I find the best value, right? But sometimes there might be more football cards, more basketball cards, more other sort of cards, right? So, you have to kind of adjust and adapt to your surroundings at a card show. But I think it's important to have a game plan when you're going to a card show, right? Like, to a certain extent, because you don't want to have tunnel vision. A lot of times people are like, oh, I'm going and I'm looking for, Jaden Daniels cards. right? You could spend 4 hours and you end up finding 2 or 3 Jaden Daniels cards in a bargain box, right? So when I say you want to have a game plan, like I have a budget that I generally try to stay in. Am I buying for a live event that I'm doing within the next couple of days? So what is that audience going to be? Because we're burning and turning these cards so fast that when I buy at a card show, I'm already before I even buy, I'm thinking about where I'm selling them. Okay.
Yeah.
So like for me, having a game plan is super important, but like you have to be able to diversify, because otherwise, like you said, time is money. You could spend an entire card show and walk away with 10, 15 cards. For what we do, that's not a good day. Like if I was a high-end buyer and I bought 10 or 15 cards, that would be a different story. But a lot of our business is based on bulk, having a lot of inventory, because we turn these cards over so quickly. So like with emerging markets, it can be a lot easier. Also, you have to hope that these guys have their boxes organized to some extent, because there's nothing that will drive you more crazy than going to a table and there being like 7,000 different types of cards in no specific order in a box, right?
And
sometimes
no
that helps
pricing.
though, because then you're like, okay, bam, 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 bam. But you apply the same concept no matter the sport. That's how I do it. I have a couple of names that I'm familiar with that I'm looking for, obviously, in every sport. And then I'm looking for numbered stuff. I'm looking for recent autos and patches, or I'm looking for nostalgic players of past inserts from the 90s. Like those sort of stuff can be applied to every single sport.
Can I do a metaphor? Is that okay, real quick, guys?
Yes, we love Cary.
Yeah,
Cary
let's do a Cary for real quick. We're like jazz musicians, right? We're highly trained in what we do, and the boxes are kind of like jazz music. You know what I mean? We're trained. We're coming in prepared. We have our expertise. I'm definitely a little bit better at football than I am at baseball, but jazz music is just going with the flow. You're trained so you can go with the flow, but like, I can't tell you how many times I've gone to a show and I'm like, I want to find, this happened a lot lately, Bowman U. I'm so into Bowman U right now. I want to find nothing but Bowman U. Yeah. And I go there and I'm hit in the face with a bunch of baseball, and I'm like, okay, it's time to adjust. I might have to actually look a little bit more stuff up, or I'm going to take, like last week or the week before, I went to the Villages card show, just for the card show, folks.
People aren't familiar. The Villages are a retirement community in Florida. It's massive.
They have card shows there?
They do, but they're all older people, right? Yeah. They're all older people.
55 to 65 year old. That's like the average age of the people.
Yeah, so it was like the new, there was a little bit of new stuff, but like, the new stuff really that I was finding was the King Griffey Jr. stuff. So I really wasn't going there looking for King Griffey Jr. and Frank Thomas rookies, but that's, I didn't really want the 50s, 60s baseball. And plus that stuff was priced up. It wasn't in the bargain boxes. So I ended up with a backpack full of, hundreds of Ken Griffey Jr., Frank Thomas cards. And it's not necessarily what I was feeling or wanting to do or find. But I love that stuff. I'm attached to that as a kid. So that was where my preparation took me that day. That was the jazz music of that moment,
But also too, when we do our shows and whatnot, there's a lot of people that are in our age. I would say a big portion of your demographic, maybe 35 to 50, that are coming to your shows, live shows. So when you have those cards, those are appealing to them because it's players they grew up with, in there. For me, when I go to these shows in the emerging markets, I think it's the biggest opportunity for us to go out there. One is, it's so cheap to get these cards that it's worth taking risks on stuff because you guys can test the water. Number two, a lot of these dealers that I do find, because like Tim said, they have your baseball, you get your football box, you get your basketball box, and then usually a miscellaneous box. That's going to be your emerging markets. You have some hockey, you're going to have some like pieces of the past, you're going to have WWE, you're going to have MMA, whatever else you're going to have in there. But I think it's a great opportunity because, one, you can test the water. But two, I also find that these dealers don't really care about those because their main focus is either football or baseball, stuff like that. So they are happy when someone's digging through and pulling those cards out because more than likely they have brought it to multiple shows and they probably didn't sell a lot of it because they need a specific buyer, especially when you're dealing with the smaller shows. Now, like if you go to a national, that's a different story because you have so many people there that are going to be from all walks of life. But like for me, if I go to a show that has 50 or 100 tables, if I'm specializing in women's soccer, there's probably not going to be a lot of people there that are just specifically for women's soccer. So like you have an advantage doing that in those emerging markets.
Dude, I I'm sorry I have to talk about this
No.
since we're talking about our emerging markets thing. And I realized that I didn't know what the hell you guys were saying when you were saying F2, right? In my back of my mind, I was like, oh, I guess that's like a minor league F1. Is that what that is?
Yeah, it's like the ranks, right? Like minor league.
Okay,
Yeah,
I got an F2 card.
Second division, yeah.
Yeah, I got an F2 card. Frederic Vesti, F2 card, numbered to 199.
That's
Yes.
interesting.
See, that's what I love about what we do, because I think bargain boxing really, really rewards a curious mind. That sounds way deeper than it needs to, but like it does. Like I love the fact that you could just be on a tear just looking up F1 and F2 for like 2 or 3 weeks, and maybe you get really into it. You open some packs, you look for it a little bit on eBay or something, and then you don't really touch it for a little while. But all that stuff, all that learning you did in that couple weeks will pay off for you 4 months down the road when you find that random box out of nowhere or pocket in a box, right? That's just all F1, F2, and you're like, dang. Verstappen did win like most of the races last year, like 23 of 25 or something, and this is numbered and it's $1. I'm picking that up. Or that's an awesome looking, I don't know who would be another guy, like obviously Lewis Hamilton, but there's other, there's there's Lance Stroll. There's a whole bunch of other racers you can get into if you learn what you're doing, and it's fun. Like whenever you get into that stuff and you're curious about it, it might not pay off in that moment. It could later down the line.
Well, another thing that we do fund a lot in bargain boxes is non-sport stuff, which I'm a big fan of, especially when it comes to like Marvel, DC, Disney. And I would say one of the biggest appeals, and I'm a comic book guy. I get comic books graded. I know a lot about the comic book market. And one of the biggest things, even when people buy comic books, they have great looking covers. It's the eye appeal of the cover. So one of the biggest things for me, when I dig through these bargain boxes, non-sport stuff, I'm looking for eye appeal of the art, because people that read comic books, that like Disney has a whole category. If you go to their website, that they sell art, Disney art, comic books. They have, the people that make up the comic books, they sell their personal art. So when you guys are digging through these bargain boxes and you find these non-sport cards, especially DC, Marvel, Disney, it's the appeal of how it looks. That's really big, especially for live shows, because I will tell you, there's so many times I throw up a 50 cent, 25 cent dollar card on my whatnot. I'll go for $3, $4, $5 because the graphics look awesome.
I have to just, I know Tim, you usually go next, but I just want to say this real quick. So I did a video today where I bought out the rest of that guy at the flea market's booth. I bought all his sports card stuff last time.
He was backstory on him. He's actually a comic book dealer too. So
yes, so he had mostly Marvel, he was more attached to his Marvel. I paid up more, but that's exactly what I was doing last night. I was going through those boxes, and there was some super obvious stuff, like a number to 10 Guardian of the Galaxy Star-Lord card. That's an awesome card, but there was a lot of nuance there. Like I was going through 92 Marvel Masterpiece, which is a great set. Like, and I was just going through. I love the art on this one. I love the Venom. I like how Carnage looks here. I like the show
by any chance.
Yeah, let me grab one real quick.
Yeah, grab that.
I found so many cool cards. So just
I mean, Tim, you got to see these cards. These cards are beautiful looking, because I went behind them and I bought, the guy ended up finding like 1 or 2 more boxes of stuff. I ended up actually finding some of those cards in there. Now I know you don't do a lot of non-sport stuff when you're going through there, but I mean, someone yourself you're not a really comic book guy, you're not a Disney guy. I mean, what's appealing to you though with the non-sport? I mean, I know it's appealing. There's a market for it, but
well, I mean, if it's numbered, that's 90% of the stuff. If I buy non-sports that's modern, it's numbered stuff. It'll be numbered for me. Or if it's characters that I know like are popular, Spider-Man stuff, those sort of things are easier for me to kind of pull the trigger. Or if they're, I almost bought some die cut Marvel cards that I had never seen before. They were new, but it was trying to sneak them into a bundle, and the guy was telling me that they sell for like $25, $30, and I was just like, I couldn't find a middle ground on those cards, so I had to put them back and work magic on some other stuff.
I remember the time you messaged me about when you were at a card show and you were looking at the Ninja Turtle cards, and then they had a whole section of rap cards, and you were looking for like an Easy E because that was more appealing to you because that was non-sport. So
graded non-sport cards for me. If I can find those at good prices, I that's kind of where I fall in love.
Yeah. With this Marvel stuff that I got yesterday, if I was a little more into grading, it probably would be, and I probably should look into that a little on some of these. But let me show you a couple cards that stood out. Some of these I'd never seen as a kid. Like this is 1994 suspended animation. It's a Carnage, but look, it's like an acetate one. I got like all of them. I got Venom. I got Spider-Man. It's, acetate is see-through. I think that's here's my favorite one I got. And it's not like highly valuable, but it's a Lord of the Rings from 2006 set. This is a stained glass.
That's dope.
Isn't that dope? Like that's eye appeal 101 right there.
And that's
the stained glass. Yeah, Topps made it. Yeah, 2006. And just like this is from the 90s, this is a holofoil. It's kind of hard to see in this light. But like there's just so many cool cards that just look amazing. And maybe on eBay, I mean, they could range from $2 on up, $1 on up. But like in a live setting, or even if you take great pictures on eBay or somewhere else, you may be able to get a premium if you're willing to sit around and wait for the collector. Because really the best thing any of us can do is have as many collectors buying from us as possible, because then they're going to buy stuff that they're attached to at a fair price. If we're only selling to flippers, we're always going to be, basically connected to that last comp model, which, is tough at times, especially with higher end cards.
I agree with you. And I went right behind you. The guy still had an extra box to show. So I ended up picking up another box. But I would say one thing for me is the original insert cards from the 80s and 90s. What were the original insert cards? Sticker cards.
Stickers, yeah.
So that's huge for me. I love the sticker cards, especially if you're dealing with like Ninja Turtles. You're dealing with like I got a whole stack of Goonies sticker cards. And I have one of like the slots. Awesome. Like that one's probably gonna get me $5+, just for that card alone. And I only paid $50 for these two little boxes of stuff. But I will probably get hundreds of dollars from my live shows when we're doing this, because when I'm doing a football show, if you're doing a baseball show, and you just sprinkle these in, it's not a big focus of my show, but I'm just saying, hey, I may run, if I run 100 cards that night, maybe I sprinkle in 10 to 15 of these, which adds value. And every time I sprinkle those in, I always hear people like, oh man, that's so cool. But it also changes up the format of the show. It also gives them something cool, something different to look at. So I always think that it has this potential, definitely opportunities there. All right, this is the big one, and this one, Tim's I can just see you. You're just ready to go on this one when it comes down to prospecting, because prospecting is huge, for all of us. We're not talking about investing. We're not talking about but we're not talking about spending, thousands of dollars on Jaden Daniel cards right now. We're talking about bargain boxes, what to look out for college players, high school players, for minor league players. So, Tim, why don't you kick this off, because this is something that you really specialize in. You do shows strictly on Bowman cards.
Yeah, well, with baseball, it's a little bit easier to prospect, but I think that has changed dramatically with the rise of Bowman U, and it's a good thing that we're having Gaby come on so we can kind of talk about that rising market, because college Bowman U first year was what, 21, 22?
22, I think.
Yeah, so
it was 21, 22, yeah.
Yeah, so like that's a fairly new thing, but like Bowman baseball has been out for decades, right? So like as far as prospects go, so that's a huge market, and for me, that's where I find the most bang for my buck. It's so much more difficult to find, a football gem of a card. Like you can't find like a Jaden Daniels numbered to 99, right?
Correct.
Even with the McDonald's All-American, I sent you guys that card of the college basketball player now. She's a sophomore now at Oklahoma. That was in a bargain box, and I got that in a whole lot of cards. And that also, I got baseball, football, basketball. That was numbered to 5, right? That's a $50 card right there. That you can't find that sort of stuff as frequently with the other sports as you can baseball. So for me, learning the top 100 prospect list is super important. And even more so than learning the top 100 baseball prospect list is looking at the team's top 30 prospects. Because
which those haven't come out for this year yet, right? They're coming soon.
Yeah, 2025 per team prospect list hasn't come out yet. You can still look at 2024, but it will change. They're going to slow roll those into spring training. But the newest...
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, the newest top 100 list has come out as a whole, but they will start rolling those out. So, like, for me, that's where you can... Because you can make money on those cards before those players even have an opportunity to bust. In basketball, like you don't have that as much. You have a few G League guys here and there, right?
Yeah.
But in basketball and football, like you're a rookie, you get drafted, you're under a microscope. With these guys in baseball, there's so much more time to make money on these guys.
There's mystery there. And sometimes the mystery leads to hype, and the hype leads to money before there's any production at all.
Yeah. And there's a huge market for it. There's huge buyers. There's massive amounts of baseball buyers. For me, with baseball is the reason why I focus in on baseball. And obviously, you guys know I sell every single sport. I'm a sports junkie. I could talk sports about any sport. It doesn't matter what it is, right? But like with baseball, the range of value is so much greater than it is in football and basketball. And a lot of dealers, they know the top names of the products when they come out, and they know all the football and all their basketball. But there are 19-year-old Dominican guys that these people have no idea, and they'll slide into a box. And like I'm listening to the guy who's going to be at spring training this year. Those guys are in the dollar boxes. And like the more and more you pick those up, numbers, stuff like that, the value can jump overnight with one article that comes out about spring training. So like for me, it's huge.
Well,
huge
I got a question for you too, because so I live in Florida. I live in the Tampa Bay area. I live in one of the meccas of spring training. You know, from my house, I can go to the Blue Jays, Yankees, Tigers, Phillies, well, all within an hour of me, you know, which is awesome. So I hit up a lot of minor league games because a lot of people know the single A league is in Florida. They send a lot of people down here. The other one's going to be in Arizona. But there's so much nuances to this league because you have rookie ball, you have single A, you have double A, you have triple A, and then you have these players that get invited to camp, get invited to not just spring training, and then they may get called up, they don't get called up. So walking the spring training is right around the corner. What are you looking for in spring training? I mean, because there's so much nuances in this. Is there something that stands out to you, or are you looking for players to get invited to spring training? Or
yes. So this is the big thing is you want to find the list of spring training invitees. Okay, so that will have your prospects. Now, not every prospect that gets invited to spring training has a card yet, and if they do, they might not even have a Bowman already. So those are things you kind of have to keep in mind too. But you want to look at that list because if any of those guys it's referred to as breaking with the club, meaning that once spring training ends, they're actually going to they made the major league roster, right? So if any of those guys break, oh my God, the market goes berserk for those guys. So it's like and even if they don't break, you still have them for when they get called up, right? And that's like that's a huge selling time is when a guy gets called up. It's an automatic sell for me, right? So like knowing those, and it's not a huge list. Each team maybe have 3 to 7 guys, right? So it's easy to familiarize yourself with those names. So like that's super important. And then if a guy performs well in spring training, let me tell you a story, quick story. I made an absolute killing on this. 2 years ago, Lawrence Butler had an absolutely monster spring training. Before then, nobody knew who he was. His first Bowman was in like 2018, and I bought all the Lawrence Butlers I could find. And then I kind of was selling them a little bit because he had a little bit of buzz during the next year because he didn't get called up. And then last year, he gets called up and goes absolutely berserk. And now his rookie card's out, and he's a name that people are buying. But like, those sort of spring training games can point you in the right direction. It might not be an instant flip, instant money grab, but it'll point you in the right direction for stuff to kind of stash for a little bit. So like those are the big things that you're kind of looking for. And then I mentioned this last episode, the spring showcase. If you guys aren't familiar with it, just Google Major League Baseball spring showcase. It basically is a showcase like mini tournament sort of thing within the spring training games that showcases all the top young talent from each roster. So
it's like an all-star game, but pre all-star.
Yeah, it's spring training. It's in spring training. It's called the spring showcase. So like that's something to pay attention to too.
What about something I want to? Can I add something real quick
before I forget? Sorry. What about players get called up and then get sent back down? So is that a good buying opportunity, do you think? Or are they already on the radar?
It depends on how big of a name they are. Okay. Like Jackson Holiday, he got called up and the stuff went crazy. It was going crazy before then. Yeah. He got sent down and people were selling. And it was an absolutely perfect buy because people are crazy that think that like, oh, it's over. And like, dude he was playing high school baseball like 8 months ago.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then what happens? He gets called back up and he hits a grand slam for his first home run when he gets called back up, right?
Yeah, perfect. And perfect storm if you held or if you bought.
Exactly.
At that
so
time,
like, that's the thing too, is like you always want to be a little cautious and be, as far as that goes, don't be too reactionary. I think there's one thing that Cary says that like has always stuck with me, and especially since we've been doing this podcast, it's about like, obviously we tell you guys you make your money in the buy, but it's like you can never lose when you sell for a profit. Is what when Cary says that. So like to me, like that's the ultimate thing to kind of remind yourself about when you're doing all of this bargain boxing and shopping at card shows.
Pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. It's a saying in the stock market. You know what I mean? Like where you can just you can dibble a little bit, but if you try to take as much as you want, you're gonna end up getting slaughtered at the end of the day. So if you're making a profit, take it and go.
On that note, have you ever had peanut butter on bacon?
I hate peanut butter, dude. It's disgusting.
You hate peanut butter?
I really do. I've never loved peanut butter. I'm not a nut guy. Yeah, no. I was weird. I was a weird kid. Go figure.
Like peanut butter cups?
No.
I'll
eat them now. If I was a kid, I would have thrown up. Now I can handle it, but as a kid, it was disgusting. I'm weird. I'm like one of the few people like that. I want to add something to what Tim was saying, because Tim pretty much is the guy you should listen to about baseball cards and prospecting. I mean, I learned so much from Tim's videos on that all the time, and thank you for those, man. But about the like MLB top 100 prospects list, it just came out. What was it, like 2 weeks ago, give or take?
And you guys can go watch it on YouTube or on the website.
Fascinating. I think educate yourself on that because it's about the hype and about the future of baseball. And there's so many people. But one thing that I played a little bit with is like some of the bigger guys. I can't find their autos or great cards in the bargain boxes, but I can find the Leaf stuff, right? So like here's a guy on the top 100. I think he's like 28, 29. I paid like $3 for this. Kevin McGonagall, number to 99.
McDongle. You know what's interesting? He doesn't have a lot of cards either.
No, he doesn't. I don't even know if he has any Bowman stuff. So this was $3. I'm going to get that. Here's a guy top 10 on the MLB top 100, Andrew Painter. Now, pro debut is not very well loved. And this was $3, number to 25, Andrew Painter.
That's got to be like a $25, $30 card right now, so easily.
This was in the box last week, right? What? I paid up, I think like 7 or so. Matt Shaw's top 20. I think he's 19
he's a stud.
Right now.
He's a stud.
For the Cubs. Also, he's another guy, great team, right? Cubs, Yankees, Dodgers, Red Sox.
Markets.
And then, a couple other guys like here. I didn't even know. I know Roki Sasaki. And we didn't talk that much. We talked a little bit about, minor leagues, but also like the international market. If you can pay attention to what's happening. Yeah, if you're paying attention to Nippon or, the Dominican League, like you mentioned. I don't know who this dude is. I literally just looked him up. It's Rintaro Sasaki. And these are like, not super rare, but it seemed like it was about a $12 to $15 card. It's not the guy that's the number one prospect, Roki Sasaki. It's a different dude. But and Jet Williams is another like top 100 elite extra edition guy. He's for the Mets, which I think is a good team. So, I think the baseball boxes, if you're willing to dig, and literally when I'm there, and I know you don't need to look up as much, Tim, because you're so well versed in it. I will literally go to K&T because they have a lot of this kind of stuff, and I will just go through players and I'll look them up. Are they in the top 100? I'll put a stack of everybody, and sometimes I'll spend an hour just in the zone, enjoying myself, looking up guys, going, "Oh, that dude's number 28." I'll never forget that now, at least for this year. If I find, and I'll probably find some more of that Dongale or whatever his name is.
That
cool.
Andrew Painter card I hate to say it because I know we're on the No Banger podcast, but ladies and gentlemen, that's a banger. To find that for $3, I saw that card, and you should look that up because I don't think it is, but that might be an image variation also.
I'll go check. Yeah,
double check that, but. I saw one of his pro debut cards recently at a card show. It was like numbered to like 199, and it was going for like $15-20 that card at the show. So I think that's because he was like one of the top pitching. He was Paul Skenes before Paul Skenes was Paul Skenes.
And then did he not fall off a little, but then had a big resurgence?
He got Tommy John surgery, so he missed last year, right? But he returned, and what's crazy is I was listening to a couple of podcasts, and it's wild to me that these people are having podcasts talking about these rankings and these players, and they're like, oh, he hasn't pitched in a year, right? And I'm like, dude, he went to the Arizona Fall League and dominated in his return since Tommy John surgery. So Andrew Painter is a huge grab right now. I'm just to throw that out there.
So one thing I want to say, we didn't touch base on football this week or any really digging into like the college prospects or high school because we're going to have Gabby come on. We're going to do a deep dive in that. Now, one mistake we did say earlier that he's going to be our guest for next week. We're going to film it next week.
Oh, yeah.
We're actually going to be dropping it towards the end of the month when the week that Tim has his baby, his baby's due here in the next couple of weeks.
I'm not having the baby. My wife is having the baby.
Well, I saw 9.5 months.
You were slightly involved in the whole thing.
I mean, you were looking a little plumped. I just assumed, right? Sorry, my bad.
No, he's doing the daddy weight, man.
So we're going to be dropping that. So we're going to be doing a deep dive on some other stuff here. But one thing before we wrap this up, the show up here, one thing is, guys, stay to the end. We're going to draw the winner for the giveaway from last week. We did hit 500 subs, and I do appreciate each and every one of you. But
thank you, guys.
We talked about what to look for in these bargain boxes. The biggest thing about how to construct a deal, because here's the thing. When it comes to bargain boxes, they may say $1 on them, but, or $2, $3, $5, whatever the deal is. Bundling is going to be key to these bargain boxes. The most important thing. Now, one thing that I did learn from Cary at the card shows, and he does this a lot, he likes to dig through the $5, $10, $15 bins to pull a couple, key cards for his whatnot shows, some other things. But he usually gets talk about how you get your dollar cards usually thrown into the deal, especially if
dude, I can't tell you how many times like you'll construct a deal and you're at a $300, $400 total, but sometimes it's like $200, $250 cards or even less. Sometimes it's like 30, 40. And a lot of times the dollar cards are massively discounted.
Yes.
Like I've had times where I've, bought $200 worth of cards and then they basically threw in $40, $50 cards. That'll happen from time to time. The lower the value of the card in the bargain box, the more likely it is if you're buying other slightly more valuable cards that they will be discounted heavily or even thrown into a deal. You can negotiate a lot more. You can get 50% of, or less of comps or whatever if you're dealing with the stuff that they want to get rid of. Obviously, you go up to and you have one card and it's a kaboom Jaden Daniels and you're asking for, hey, can I get this at 90% of comps? They're going to come back and say, no, pay me 170% of comps because he's so hot right now, right? You're going to actually pay more than what it's worth, right? But when you're dealing with, it's kind of like what we all do. We do garage sales, flea markets, if you do storage units, stuff like that. If you're willing to put in the work, right? Like if you're willing to put in the work to do this low end stuff and they don't have to deal with it anymore, they will give you a big discount because they don't want to have to lug the literal heavy boxes to and from every show if they don't have to. A lot of them, some people that's their whole business model is the boxes, but a lot of people, it's just the thing that pays for their booth rent if they're doing it well. And then they're hoping to make their profit on the big card. So they'll move that stuff.
There's so much more to talk about when it comes to card shows. So like this will be something that kind of will be ongoing. We'll try and do some more descriptive things about card shows. But I will tell you, to wrap it up on my end, 2 things: image variations, short prints, case hits. Those are the bangers that we get as buying no bangers, okay? Because those are the ones that you're going to find in the bargain boxes that slip through the cracks more than anything else. So always try and familiarize yourself with case hits, image variations, and short prints, okay?
And a lot of them aren't the obvious ones. It's ones that you're like, that looks weird. You look it up, you find out it's a case hit.
Exactly.
And then you know.
And then for the bundling sort of situation, 1,000%, that's how we make a living is by bundling. You know what I'm saying? And then like, sometimes you're going to come across tables that don't have prices, and that'll be something we'll talk about in a future show, but like always try and the first thing I say to somebody is if I go into a box and I find a couple of cards that say, hey, if I put together a whole pile, and 99% of the time you're like, yeah, I'll work with you. So always just build your stack first you can always subtract it, but you can't go back and try and find a box in row 6, box 7 that you saw that you wish you would have added to your pile after you get the price. So it's always better to kind of like go back and subtract cards. I did this at the show on Saturday where like I put together a bundle. I was at $70. The guy told me $130. So I asked him like, which one of these cards did you have valued at the most, you know? And then I took those out and we went back and forth. I kept trimming the fat on the deal, and I ended up walking away with a card that was in that bundle that I paid $35 for that's worth $125 because that was not one of the cards that he valued as a high dollar card. So the negotiation, the bundling, advice, all that stuff is super important.
Go in there with the stack, like go in with your dream stack if you can of cards. You know, best case scenario, I want every one of these cards if the price is right. You can always take cards out like that. But you can't like if you. Sometimes I do that. Like I don't feel that, and I'm being. I have a weird vibe, and I don't think he's going to work with me. And then I've done that with Rod. Even it was in one of my videos, and I'm like, oh man, if I knew he was going to be that cheap, I would have freaking bought. I mean, I probably go back and buy more sometimes, but like I didn't think he was going to be so reasonable. And the moment passed, you know.
So I would say one of the key things, and Tim made a good point, is ask that they're going to bundle before you spend all that time digging. Because there's, like, for example, there's a box guy at the National where every day his bargain boxes went down. So he started at $5 day one. He goes, I'm not negotiating those. Day two, they're going to be $4. Day three, $3. Maybe the last day I'll negotiate. So they each dealer has their own system in place, stuff like that. But just ask them before you start digging. If you start finding a couple of things, hey, if I put together a big stack, would you work with me? Absolutely. Also too is you can tell people, say, hey, I'll pay full price for this if you give me X, Y, Z in this. That's another good negotiating technique because you have to. There's a give and take in working with these dealers. Introduce yourself. Let them know your name. Find out their name. That's the personal aspect goes a long way because if you don't introduce yourself, they don't know who you are. You want to keep coming back, especially if it's a local car show. You want to make these relationships with them. So if you come back, say, hey, Jim, hey, Tom, like that goes a long way. If someone learns my name, wants to come up and talk to me, they took the time out of their day to introduce themselves or find out my name to find me personally. And I always find relationship-wise doing that at car shows, it always pays off the end. And I'm not just doing it to get good deals because first off, I want to be friendly with these people because I'm going to learn from them. But also they're going to help educate me. They're going to help give me deals. Also too, when you go to bargain bins too, and especially if it's a car show that you see a lot of the same dealers, ask them what's new they have out. Because instead of spending time just digging through random boxes, they'll point you in the direction where the good stuff is or where the new stuff they put out is. It will save you so much more time. I do that all the time. Like when we went to your car shop, you're like, hey, where's the new stuff? And he's like, hey, check this box right here. The guy had probably 1,000 boxes at the shop, Cary, when we were at K&T, but he said, hey, this box, I just put all the new stuff today. So like,
I was last time I was at K&T, I was there like a good hour. I should have asked up front, but I'm not. I'm probably the least talkative. I'm friendly, but I'm the least talkative with dealings as compared to you guys. And he told me about an hour in, he's like, all the boxes underneath this table are new. Underneath this table is new. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I went to town. I found a lot more dollar cards than I was anticipating because I just was looking. I was just deep diving, vibing, just finding a card here and there.
Also, too, they hate lugging these around because bargain boxes are heavy, guys. So, like one show that me and Cary went to, we asked them, hey, if we buy a whole box, what kind of deal could we get? Knowing ahead of time how much money they would cost us to get an entire box, and then you could break down the cost. Okay, well, that's going to put me at 42 cents a card or whatever it's going to be. Me and Cary made a play together. We bought a whole bargain box. We split it 50-50. So I took one row, he took the other, and then we split the middle because we knew what the price point was going to be. And then we were able to negotiate that a little bit further down at the end of the day and got a good deal and stuff.
Oh,
so dude, that also worked out to our benefit.
Do you remember at National, Cary, we were at that one table where we were like, so how much if we just wanted to buy everything, all the boxes?
Oh, yeah.
And the guy, we were thinking, the guy came back and he was like, 14 or something like that. I'm thinking he's 1,400, right?
Nope,
and me and Cary are the kind of look at each other like, maybe we should make some phone calls to get some money to, front us some money. And the guy was, and eventually, like 5-10 minutes into it, we realized he meant $14,000.
Exactly. He was a little bit. It was the National. We should have known better.
Yeah.
If I knew I was going to have the Caitlin Clark at that moment, I might have made the deal.
Yeah, there you go. But I think we're going to wrap this up now. I think we did a deep dive into it. Next week, we'll have to come up with a topic because we kept thinking that we're going to have Gabby on next week's show, but it's actually going to be recorded for a future show. So we'll go more into that. Guys, if you guys have any questions you guys want us to answer, please put in the comments down below. Put the hashtag NoBanger. If we hit 600 subs, I will give away another blaster box. And this week's winner is actually going to be Best in the Midwest 84. You won the Prism Baseball blaster box. So thank you so much for being part of the No Banger family. We do appreciate it. Send us a message on No Bangers on Instagram. And just so that people don't try to make up a name to try to send me a message, I'm going to have you make a comment on one of the videos so I know that it's you, so I can verify the names and match up. And then I'll get your address. We'll send you a free box. We do appreciate each and every one of you guys out here. Make sure you guys are following us on all the platforms, on Whatnot, on District, on Instagram, on Twitter, everywhere out there. No Bangers. Please reach out. We are here to help. And make sure you have good questions for us next week. Tim, any final words?
No, just listen, like I said, there's so much that we're going to be talking about throughout the course of this podcast. It's just there's an unlimited amount of information and entertainment that I feel like we can provide. And we just appreciate all the love and all the support. The amount of people that have sent us messages throughout like eBay, Instagram, Twitter, people at the card shows. I'm still waiting for my first person to come up to me and ask to do the outro with me, but we'll get there eventually.
It's gonna happen, man. We're gonna bring it to life through sheer will.
Oh, that reminded me. Where's that post I got yesterday from Instagram, from eBay? I don't know. Here it is. So the person who sent me a message on eBay says, I really enjoy your content on YouTube. And then he goes, the No Bangers Sports Card Podcast is great. I'm sure I was one of the first 20 subscribers. You send me a message like that on eBay, you're getting a discusut on your card, all right?
You're getting a discount, yeah. Right, just name your price. Pick the highest value card. Offer 80% less.
And his username is Beat Kent State. So we appreciate you watching, man. We appreciate that. I gave you the deal on there. Now, don't send me $1 offer or anything like that. But listen,
he has to accept it.
Yeah.
Right.
So I had to accept it. I mean, that being the first person to send me that, if it was $1 offer, I just would have accepted it. I'm like, this is awesome that you would have sent me a message like that. So we appreciate each and every one of you guys. And Tim, you know what time it is, buddy?
Yes. Everybody, hands in. All right. No Bangers on 3. 1, 2, 3. No Bangers!
No Bangers! We did it. I hope you did it at home.